This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1221. Ooh, look at that. We have a palindrome number, 1221. It's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Nashville, it's artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What's happening?
Just down the street there, our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
And in LA, you know, from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
What up?
Hey, Marty, before we get going, did you end up watching the Jamie Foxx special last night?
I started to watch it, and then my son just got out of control.
Dude.
But it was so emotional.
I got Prop to watch it. You see Prop sent the teary-eyed back?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it is the most...
I got the first 5 minutes. This is as far as I've gotten.
Oh, no, it changes. And so, okay, just for the listeners, like if you know Jamie Foxx, most talented person, entertainer ever created. I mean, amazing musician, instrumentalist, singer, impressionist, comedian, actor.
He's one of those like annoyingly talented people. Like he can do
Or
everything.
he's great. Yeah.
Like, how is he not the most famous person in the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just got natural talent. It's crazy.
Miami Vice. He did that movie.
So everybody knows that he had a medical episode.
Among other things.
And so he just did this special on Netflix where he tells the story of it, right? And I'm not endorsing it. I'm officially not endorsing it because obviously it's Jamie Foxx. There's some profanity. So if that offends you, do not watch it. But the hour that we spend with him is the most unexpected and Jesus-filled thing I've ever seen in mainstream entertainment. Like it is, this man, through what he went through, found God. Like he had been raised in the church, and obviously with his music and stuff, you can kind of hear that influence. He kind of called back to church culture jokes. No, this man had a praying family. They were believing for a miracle. He tells the full story, and he talks about the life change that God gave me a second chance, and I'm not going to waste it, and I'm going to serve him. And I'm telling you, the finale is a worship moment. I mean, it is insane. I've never seen anything like it. And he peppers it with humor and profanity. And it's almost like the profanity is almost like the old Jamie. And then he like catches himself like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like you'll hear that throughout, this tension of like his heart and life is transformed, but then like old Jamie comes back out, you know, but then he'll catch himself. It's great, man. And like, I was I was so moved by it. You're crying. His daughter's part of it. Like, it's just like, it's insane. And I'm like telling the group chat, please watch it. Prop watched it. Like he gets it. It's so crazy, dude. So watch it.
I feel like when I was the beginning of it, when he was starting to talk about God and stuff, I almost felt a little, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I felt a little ashamed by the church because I felt like, wow, remember like in the Bible when, you know, someone was healed and then they would tell everybody, they would just, it didn't matter the language they chose or how they did it. It was the overall just, I think, spirit of what they were saying, and it connected to other people. And I think about how that purity of just being like, God did something in I remember early on in my life when I started going to church, I remember I had a friend of mine who wanted to go to church, and he was just, you know, had a bad tongue. Every curse word in the world always happened. And like, he's like talking about God and so excited, and people like kind of shooting on him down. Like, you don't have it right yet because you're cursing. You don't have this right. You don't have that. And he just felt so defeated. He's like, I'm not going back. But he was so hyped up at one point. I think to myself, when I see this Jamie Foxx special, he is so just marked by that moment where his life had changed, that he's becoming like a testimony. Yeah. And I think like, man, the church, like what if we had more of that authentic, I don't care what anybody says, I don't care if I lose anything, I just need to know what God did in my life. Like that purity of what he was saying was, to me already, I could feel it in the beginning of the special.
Yeah, that's what comes through, is like he's not polished, he's not perfect, but he has had a genuine life transformation, heart transformation. He literally said, like, I feel like looking back on it, like I knew God when I was young. And I turned my back on him in my fame, and God allowed this stroke to remind me that I need him and him alone. And like I am going to serve he gave me a second chance, and I'm going to glorify him for the rest of my life. I'm telling you, it is not polished. It's not, don't watch with your kids, but like it is genuine and beautiful and moving. And I'm just like, more of this, please, Hollywood, you know, like God's doing something. I don't know.
I also think that what's happening too is that for a season, and I don't know how long this has been, but it feels like Christian meant all ages. Like in order for something to be Christian, it had to be all ages, like
family friendly.
Family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's conversations among adults that although they may be enriching for me, they're way too far for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And vice versa. There's stuff that's like for kids that it's not meant for me. So, I think what's happening is a lot of people you have newer converts that are coming in, and you have some Christians that have been in public ministry for so long, they're maturing and they're just like, you know what? I'm talking to the adults right now. And I want to talk to the adults in the way that adults can get this, as opposed to let me try to figure out how to make it relevant for a 50-year-old and a 5-year-old, So,
what's interesting about the crowd too is a really small theater in Atlanta, 400 yards from Piedmont Hospital, where his life was saved. So like he picked that location because of the proximity of the hospital. This little theater, it's like you can literally see every row. I mean, it's maybe 15
it's very
rows
close.
deep. It's very small, and so the crowd is a big part of it, and the crowd interaction, and like it's like they showed up for a Jamie Foxx performance, and if the best song he ever wrote, the FU song or whatever, like that was the kind of show they thought they were coming in for. And when he went to and took it to a sincere conversation about faith and really started praising the Lord and worshiping and thanking the Lord, I'm telling you, that South grew up in the church crowd went there. And when it had opened up for praise and worship, they went all in on the praise and worship. It was a beautiful, like they didn't know what the show was going to be. And then when he took it where he took it, the crowd was all in with them. And like, it was, man, I've never seen anything like it. Like just in mainstream entertainment.
I always try to reiterate this. One thing about Black people that I've noticed, and I don't know if this is specific to us, but Southern Black people, I know dudes that would sell drugs and would cut down their rap music across from a church, like deeply religious. Like no lie, it's like
no dope on Sunday.
Like selling dope, like we ain't selling dope on money, or like or like man, I made some money off drugs. I'm gonna give it to the church because I want to make sure these kids. It's like even if it's a flawed perspective, the idea is like their mind isn't hostile to the idea of God. As when you hear a lot of people talk about, these gangbangers in the streets, they don't know God. It's like, no, they want to know God. It's not that they're opposed to knowing God. They not, they may hate God in the actions and the things that they do, sinning and making mistakes. But something about, man, that Southern Christian Big Mama made you. I don't care what you did Monday through Saturday. Sunday, you going to church. You could be at the club all night. You coming to the church smelling like liquor and in your club dress. I don't care. You going. Like, it's just, that's just a thing, man. It's just,
I just happened to see a TikTok the other day of like two, teenage Black girls like in the church bathroom, and they were just filming a little TikTok, and it was totally like innocent. There was nothing scandalous about it. But one of the church mothers walked in. And they were like, "Are you glorifying the Lord right now?" And they're like, and they're like, "Ma'am, there was nothing wrong with it, ma'am." And they're like, and then she's like, "Is that music glorifying Jesus? This is His house. We do not do things of the world in the bathroom at His house." And those girls are like, "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am," and turned off the camera. And they walked.
Hovey, relax, it's Hovey.
Big Mama not playing, bro. I'm trying to tell you, like at our house, I don't care what thing I had Saturday night, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. We at church. I could have got in at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and whatever I'm wearing, we on that pew.
All my evil friends, I met them all at church. All the worst. I think Jamie Foxx hit something that is very special, and I don't think it's the end of it in terms of culture. I feel like he opened the door to something great. And I was texting you earlier, Cam. Like it felt like Dave Chappelle when I've never seen a comedian just sit down and take his time and really level with people. And then, I see Jamie Foxx doing it. It's like, they're so confident. They're so, they believe in what they're saying with such conviction that I'm just kind of, like they could take you serious and make you laugh. It's something special about this new level of communicator. It's great.
Yeah. The thing about Jamie's thing last night too, was like, I thought it was going to be I hate to say the phrase, but they call it jailhouse religion. Like when you hit your rock bottom, you fall to your knees, right? And I thought he was scared. He had a life and death experience. So he found God, quote unquote. I'm telling you, the story kind of starts like that. And my cynicism, or I've been around the block a few times, I've heard this story before, but the way for the next hour, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the sincerity, and I'm telling you, this man found God. It was a genuine experience, a genuine thing. He's committed to going to church. He talked about it publicly. I told the Lord that as long as I can find a church where you're glorified and it's not corrupt men running the thing, I'm there every Sunday. So he's he's like calling out the church. Like, we got to step up. We got to, fix our stuff. I'm telling you, it was a beautiful thing. Anyway, if you're okay with a little cussing, but you want to laugh, you want to cry, the Jamie Foxx special is pretty special. Anyway, all right. We have a great show in store for you. I wonder what you think of it. Christine Caine joins us. She's coming later. She's one of our faith heroes. She joins us, a couple times a year. Emily, you talked to her yesterday. What did you guys talk about?
Well, we talked about what you'll hear is the reflection on the year and just, maybe you were happy about 2024, maybe you weren't, and how to deal with that and how to look forward to 2025 and actually have maybe a little bit of hope instead of cynicism for the future. So
I'm telling you, there's something shifted in her social media this year. I mean, we've been following her teachings and stuff for years and years and years. We've known her. She's helped relevant in a lot of ways. And personally, too, just behind the scenes over the last 5 years, she's really been there. But like I've noticed on social media this year, she's doing more things, reaching out to the people who are hurting or doubting or questioning. She's like, if you're in this situation, just know. And she's encouraging people who are in the valley, you know what I mean? Like that we all go through, but many like Christian leaders on social media, like just talk about inspiration or talk about like, they don't talk about the hard stuff where we're wrestling with God or we're wondering where he is. It seems like Christine has been talking more to those people, which is so many people. And I love it. I love seeing it. So,
I mean, I will say a little teaser for the conversation. She admitted that she has gone through a hard season for the last 18 months. Some stuff happened in June of last year. And she was like, if we had this conversation a month ago, I would have had a different response. But over the last week, I've realized like I've found a lot of healing and joy from the hardship that I've gone through. And so I do think that she's reaching out to those people because she's been in that valley.
Yeah. And that's where it comes through, like with the sincerity. And I'm going, most of these big global teachers, pastors, whatever, like they live in this ivory tower and it's almost like they forget. I don't know. They pretend like they forget. I
agree.
The struggles, right? And she's been leaning into the struggle. And so it makes sense that she's been authentically walking through a hard season too.
She's like bringing this. It's same thing with the Jamie Foxx. I mean, just tagging on. It's like this level of authenticity is what is connecting and kind of just cutting through the internet and like even me, like I saw a Christine Caine video the other day and I was like actually this relates to me. And I feel like I haven't, to be honest with you, I feel like I haven't connected to church in a very long time. I feel like I'm kind of done with celebrity church, with the church. The pastor's good looking. He says, I have a hot wife. Like, I'm so gone from that.
That was your filter previously. Is
they didn't say that I was not going to come back the next week, you know? Right. And so, but I feel like now, like it's almost what Derek said. Like it's like they have those guys who, you know, they might sell drugs, but they have this like level of deep respect and reverence. And I want to go to a church that has that deep respect, reverence for the authenticity of what God's doing and not kind of forcing God's hand, just being like, hey, like, maybe I don't know what's going on. And, you know, I don't need to see the private jet and the outfit and all that stuff. Like, that's the last thing I want to see. I just want to see something that connects to me. And I feel like she's doing a great job with that.
I agree with what you're saying. I think like her having that authenticity is like what's relatable because like as she and I were talking, one thing that like just really struck me, you know, we said that, you know, she's like one of our faith heroes. She's definitely one of mine. And there was a part of me that was almost like relieved to hear that she also goes through hard things. Like, not that I want her to go through hard things. I want truly the best things for her, but it's like, I'm going through hard things and it is comforting to know that someone who I look up to is still going through, like, who can really understand me versus I've been a part of churches where pastors seemed like they had all the answers and they had everything figured out. And it was like, I kind of don't want to listen to you because I don't think if I came to you with a problem, you would have any sort of advice or wisdom for me. And it's like Chris, who is like up until a week ago was still in the midst of, like a really difficult situation. It's like, I want to talk to you about that because you have wisdom and you have the experience. And so, yeah, I love a good, authentic pastor. That's what I'm looking for.
Emily, he gets us. He gets us.
Are you silly?
Let me jot that down. I've never heard that before.
But my mom used to say this phrase. She used to say that salvation is free, but anointing costs.
Yes.
And,
it's Mama Minor. That's good.
Yes. It's the idea that, in order for your words to have weight, there has to be some pressure. Yeah. And God said that we would know him in the fellowship of suffering. Now, a lot of times we're constantly running from suffering, and being in America, being at these huge churches, I mean, just even being able to wake up, get in a car and go somewhere, like we're so insulated from suffering. And I think that's why some of the ministry seems very surface level, is because people can insulate themselves from suffering with their resources. But I think what we found post-COVID is there's a level of pain that money can't solve. Like, money can't solve someone passing away. Money can't solve someone being sick. And I think we're just being sobered up with all the chaos and things around us. It's giving people the passion to be able to speak into the real things instead of creating a church funnel. So I love it. I think that I said it, I think last year, that I think we're headed for revival, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx, everybody. Jamie Foxx. Mm-hmm. All right.
And Christine Caine.
I was making a joke. Christine Caine for real. Okay. So Christine Caine's coming up. At the end of the show, we have your feedback. We talked last week about, like, when did the timeline break? You guys had a lot of thoughts. So that's coming up. But stay tuned. Right now, up next, it's Relevant Buzz.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
This episode is presented by Tyndale's Life Recovery Bible. Today's world is full of pain and hopelessness, and addiction can feel like an unbreakable grip. But there's hope. Whether you're struggling or walking alongside someone who is, the Life Recovery Bible can be a powerful companion on the journey to healing. With practical notes, helps, and themes fully integrated with the 12-step program, it points you back to the ultimate source of freedom and victory, your Creator. Join the millions who found hope and restoration. Visit liferecoverybible.com to learn more and take your next step toward healing. All right, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Tell us what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture this week, Emily.
Yeah. So, we were just talking about Jamie Foxx having an experience and getting to know God in a deeper way. And there's someone else who announced this week that they are at the beginning of their spiritual journey, and that is comedian Matt Rife.
You guys know who he is?
Yeah, I seen that.
Is that the good-looking guy?
The good-looking guy who does crowd work a lot?
Okay.
Yeah.
He got called out probably 9 months ago for being kind of a bad dude that cheated on his girlfriends and
like just, kind
of the things that like a lot of those young, good-looking comedians get caught up in. I mean, I'm sorry. He talks about it openly. John Chris did too back in the day. Yeah. But these guys kind of, that's their life. And then Matt kind of went away. He was kind of canceled for a bit. And Emily, tell us what's going on. Yeah,
so he went away for a bit. He's still been doing some like stand-up shows, but he's coming back now. He just came out with a book. And so as he's been doing press, he was on an interview recently with the History of Hyenas podcast. And kind of out of the blue, just sort of surprisingly, he mentioned that he got baptized in August this year. We've actually got the clip here where he talks about it.
There's never any actual dinosaur bones there. So didn't see one the whole time I was there.
You're basically making a case for Christ.
You are. I tried to. I got baptized in August.
You did?
You got baptized in August? Catholic?
Yeah. Just Christian. Well, Christian. Half Italian.
Thank God. Yeah. You got to keep that safe.
Fully baptized.
Yeah.
Water on your head and everything.
Yeah. In a dude's pool.
Wow, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, was it official or was it like a drunk thing where you were like, baptize me, dog?
Was it on Staten Island?
It was in a Tupperware container. Yeah.
Wait a second. What convinced? That's fascinating to me. What convinced you to get baptized?
The book, The Case for Christ?
Not to get super sad, but like when I've never been a super religious person, but when my grandpa passed away, something hit me that I was like, I'll never not see this person again. So something has to exist.
Sure.
And I guess I skew Christian, so I started to go to church a little bit more. I hate church. I find it excruciatingly boring.
I mean, they need new material.
They do need
That's
new
the
material.
thing is the guy's doing the same act. It's like I've heard this act. You can't go on the road with the same act. You got to write a new hour.
Right.
Yeah, we know that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're like, guy, write a little bit. like listening to Jerry Seinfeld.
This
They're
is
using
crazy.
ChatGPT to write their sermons. Yeah, it's getting lazier.
Yeah.
It's getting lazy.
But I want to believe in God, and it's obviously a huge part of the process.
Well, he believes in you.
He does believe in
so?
you.
What's frustrating to me is like Matt was like open to talking about it, and these guys were so oblivious to asking a follow-up question. They're just trying to crack jokes.
They're like,
I was
what are you baptized in Staten Island? Like the jokes.
Well, I have some. I like who? Like, you know, because like when Russell Brand got baptized, it was literally Bear Grylls who had been discipling him, and it was a very serious decision. And I'm wondering, like, who was discipling Matt Rife to say, like, let's go baptize in the pool, and like, who is this? I have so many questions. Like, is this for real? And it's interesting too that like he had been going to churches with friends. He's bored with church, but he's looking for God. He wants God. So it's then he took that step with his friends of like, I want to make a declaration of faith. I'm just like so curious. Maybe Emily, we can track him down and have a real conversation with Matt Rife.
Yeah.
That was not the format to talk about this. Those guys were.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I don't follow him closely, but I see his clips every now and then, and I had no indication that he was on any sort of like even curious about faith. And so for him to just kind of come out of the blue and be like, yeah, I got baptized earlier this year, it was like, well, that's a big decision. Like, that's not just like I started reading the Bible to see what it was about. It was like, you made a decision there. Like, that was in
a pool.
Yeah.
Like, that means that you probably, heard the gospel, maybe in a small group, not even a church,
right?
Got so hyped up and said, right, I want God now. That alone, that decision is, I mean, probably bigger than we're even understanding.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a story there. I'm so curious. Maybe he can do an hour-long special like Jamie Foxx did and tell us the story.
All right. Well, moving on to the next thing. I want to talk about a new survey that came out this week that most Gen Zers get their financial advice from TikTok.
Derek, this is a Derek Minor item.
Yeah, I saw your
Tell the
ears perk
stats.
up.
This is crazy. Tell the stat.
Of those who regularly use it, 65% say they feel more financially secure, and 68% said that the advice has actually helped them improve their financial situations.
Derek, 68% of people getting financial advice on TikTok say they're better off for it.
Well, I thought about it. At first, my ears perked up like, what is happening? But then at the same time, that's where information is dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram.
The tough thing is you don't know if this person knows what they're talking about or if they're a scam artist.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Because the number one like trends that are being searched for the most are about budgeting, like how to start a side hustle, paying off debt, also like crypto investing. Like there's a wide range of what we're getting from financial advice. And I'm with you, Cameron, where it's like I think some people genuinely have great financial advice and are putting it out for free on TikTok. I think there are some people who are actual scam artists. Like I remember seeing a video of someone pretty much basically saying like, here's how to run a scam successfully. And it's like, that's not the advice we should be putting out there.
And too, there's people with agendas. Like there's people saying like the best thing you can do is to like, don't get a HELOC loan on your home value. Get this investment company to buy a portion of your home from you. And then you get free money that you don't have to pay back. And like, you're acting like you're giving me financial advice, but this is literally you're selling me on this company's scam. It's like, so it's guys, buyer beware.
And the unfortunate thing about financial advice is you don't know whether it was good or bad for about a decade.
You're right.
You really don't know whether you got good at, because you could be up in an account right now.
Because crypto was popping like 5 years ago and people lost their whole life. The Hawk Tua girl is about to go to jail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, lost everything. So yeah, that's the issue is by the time you realize whether it was a great or a bad decision, the time has changed. It's gone. So, I would just say whoever you're getting advice from, please make sure that you get advice from somebody you can go talk to that has a reputable company that's helping you plan for the future. Like, hey, if you want to do crypto or trade options or whatever, hey, look, do what you do.
But it's almost like gambling money. You better be okay losing everything you're using.
Better be okay with losing every last nickel. But the stuff that's for your retirement for when you're 50 and 60, you need to go get the slow bucks. You need to go find somebody in some khakis that looks like a nerd and that works at a bank and talk with that person. And it's not going to be very entertaining. It's going to be grueling, but it'll pay off later.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And he's probably going to say, maybe don't give $3,000 to the girl who went viral for maybe she's not the person to invest in your crypto. And, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Derek, I did want to add, I don't know if you would have this, but are there any sort of red flags that because I don't know what a red flag is for, there's some things I can tell are red flags for financial advice, but if someone were to give me financial advice, I don't really know much. So how do I know if they're trying to scam me? Is there a way to tell?
The quicker the return, the riskier it is, and it's probably closer to gambling. So if you're talking with someone and they're saying, hey, invest this amount and we're going to go year over year over year over year at incremental gains, the way that you know that something's solid is normally is compound interest. It's not, hey, this coin is about to go up, watch. You know what I mean? That's usually gambling. What you want to do is you just want to invest. This is not financial advice, but you want to invest in the things that mature over time. Because nothing is for free. That's the thing that I've learned with just any of the. I've done it all: crypto, options. I've done everything. The thing that I found out is that the riskier it is, usually the more people that are going to lose. You want to invest. You want to spend. People make money investing. Warren Buffett, greatest investor of all time, and he doesn't invest in everything. He just invests in what he knows is going to work. So another thing that I do is I like to invest in stuff that I use. So, if you use PayPal.
I like the poly market. Yeah. I like to bet on world events.
That is called betting.
I won a lot of money when Taiwan.
So maybe if all this FinTalk advice is ultimately not a smart thing, maybe, Emily, it's ultimately going to be good that TikTok may go away next month. Well, clearly, all these FinTalk people are plants by the Chinese government to make Americans broke. So.
Okay. Ooh, wow. I see where you are on the TikTok.
I see where you're going with this.
Did y'all see that the Supreme Court is actually going to listen to TikTok's
TikTok
case?
ruling? Yeah.
I heard one day it's going to be taken down, and then the next day Trump was going to be like, "I got you," and just make it look like he's the one who made it work.
Well,
and put it back.
I mean, so we're obviously I told Emily when we were prepping for this, talking about the state of the current TikTok shutdown. Literally, people could be listening to this 2 weeks from now, and it'll be very different information, right? Yeah. So we can't speculate accurately. Don't look back at this and go, "Y'all didn't know what you're talking about." But as the news stands right now, is that the U.S. government has contacted Apple and Google to be prepared to pull the app on January 19th.
Crazy.
That the last appeals court rejected TikTok's last appeal, saying, "No, you will be shut down or have to sell by January 19th," and that their appeal to the Supreme Court is essentially. They said, if the Supreme Court rules against us, we're not going to sell to keep TikTok alive. We're going to shut it down in the U.S. And so, because the thing too of the complication of how do you sell TikTok just from the U.S. because it's been talked about that if there was a buyer, what are they buying? They're buying a user base, but they won't sell the algorithm. That the algorithm is proprietary to the parent company. So basically, somebody would buy a whole bunch of user accounts. But those user accounts now can't interact with international accounts. It's like a whole new app with no algorithm. So it's whoever buys it is buying something that's buying MySpace. They're buying something that's useless. Yeah. So it's there probably is no significant buyer just because of how complicated it would be to buy a part of an existing app.
Yeah. Without the algorithm, it doesn't
it's
matter.
Worthless.
It's worthless. Is so happy right now. They're like,
oh my gosh, this is literally giving all the power to Mark Zuckerberg. Literally.
Do y'all remember that? Remember whenever the last Spider-Man movie came out and there was that clip of that guy who did a backflip in the theaters whenever the big reveal. Do you know what I'm talking about, Derek?
Yeah.
I imagine that's what Mark Zuckerberg did when he found out that TikTok I think he did a backflip for the first time in his life.
And Instagram's algorithm is just nope, we're not showing anything to anybody.
No. I don't even know what any of my friends are doing in life. I have no idea.
No, literally, one of my friends got engaged. I did not see it until I saw it on her story. She posted it on her feed and then she shared the feed to her story. And that's how I found out. And I was like, that should have been first thing on my feed when I opened the app. I want to see my friends getting engaged.
That's the thing I loved about the TikTok coming up and taking so much market share from Meta is because it made Meta better. Now it's just making it bad again.
I mean, but TikTok has gotten so bad with every other thing I see is a shop push QVC, or a live thing or an ad. And it's just I literally was scrolling TikTok the other day and just I'm just not enjoying this. And I clicked over to Reels and Reels was a lovely experience by comparison back to back. It's I agree about the Instagram main feed, but Reels for some reason is a little, I don't know. It's a little better than what TikTok's doing right now.
Gary Vee says in Asia that social shopping is exploding in Asia. So I think that's what TikTok is trying to make that their niche here. Like there's another app called Whatnot. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like apparently that's the new. Well, QVC is back. Let's just put it that way. Like the QVC is back. Television was their social media back then. Now, this is what it is.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court, literally this morning that we're recording this, which is the 2 days before you're hearing this, said they're going to pick it up. So they may rule and say it's an unconstitutional law. But if they don't, if they pass this and the law goes into effect January 19th, January 2020, we have a new president. The problem is when Congress passes a law, it's law. The president can't override a law that's already been enacted. So Congress would have to overturn it. They're not going to. There's just not 100% Republican support.
Yeah.
Well, with how quickly this passed through Congress in April, like there's no way that they're going to.
There's no way they're going to overturn it. So then I heard NPR said, what could Trump possibly do, right? There's nothing except he could instruct his DOJ to not enforce the law. So he could cherry pick, enforce these laws, but not that law. And that's a power that the president could seemingly have, at least with influence over the DOJ. So who knows what'll happen, but I guess by the time you're listening to this, you're gonna have more information than we do right now. So
I'm tired of being the first for things to happen. Like this is like so unprecedented. I'm tired of the unprecedented.
I would love to live in a precedented era. Yeah.
Please, precedent me.
Bring back precedents.
Right. Make precedents great again.
All right, Emily, what's next?
All right, very last thing I want to end on. Dustin Nickerson made his debut appearance on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which we've had Dustin on the show before, so we're very excited to see him on The Tonight Show.
The pipeline of relevant podcasts to Tonight Show continues.
That's right.
It started with Nate Bargatze and now Dustin Nickerson. Yeah, all right. So he made his Tonight Show debut the night before we recorded this. Here's part of his bit, his stand-up.
So I've been married 20 years, and when you've been married that long, like you're always looking for new activities, like new things to do. So recently, me and my wife, we went to an escape room. Sorry, I misspoke. We fought in the car. Yeah, sorry, escape room. I'm not going to pay for that. I can just drive around with a toddler in traffic for free. Couples fight because there are differences, right? Like every couple has differences. Like I love my wife. I'm crazy about my wife. I love my wife so much. But she's a good sleeper, and I hate that. Like if you're the good sleeper in your relationship, enjoy that. And no, we're not happy for you.
No,
I take no amount of joy and pleasure in my wife's good sleep. None. None whatsoever. You ever do that, bad sleeper? You've been tossing and turning for 3 hours. You look at your happily sleeping partner next to you, and you're just like, well, good for you.
So true. It's so true. That's a fact right there.
I'm the bad sleeper. I know the frustration.
I'm the good sleeper. I'm the good sleeper.
How can you sleep so late?
My wife this morning, she's like, I had the baby for 5 hours. I'm like, okay. I was like, just waking up. I was like, okay.
You better do something more than okay for that woman. All right. Well, there you go. Dustin Nickerson. Congrats, man. He's been a friend of the show for a long time. Former youth pastor, Dustin Nickerson.
I know. I think he really is an inspiration to youth pastors everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Because every youth pastor low-key wants to be a stand-up comic. Yeah.
Peak. He's peak.
He's peak youth pastor. All right. That'll do it for
Relevant Buzz.
Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com, where we are covering the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. Thanks, Emily. All right, after this break, Christine Caine joins us. This episode is brought to you by New York Times bestselling author Bob Goff's latest book, Catching Whimsy, 365 Days of Possibility. Packed with timeless stories, one for each day of the year, Catching Whimsy will help you embrace the curiosity, delight, and endless possibilities of God's love waiting for you each day. Pick up your copy of Catching Whimsy wherever you shop for books or audiobooks, and learn more at catchingwhimsybook.com today. Well, our guest today is Christine Caine. She's one of our faith heroes, the leader of both the A21 campaign and Propel Women. She's the author of books like Unashamed and Unshakable. She joins us today to talk about things we could all use at the end of 2024, how to reflect on the past with joy, look to the future with hope. Whether you're feeling happy, exhausted, nervous, all the above this season, Chris has an encouraging word for you. Here is Emily's conversation with Christine Caine.
Well, as the year's coming to a close and everyone is, sort of thinking back on this year, what is the balance between reflecting on the past but not getting stuck in it?
That is the question, isn't it? And it really is. And, obviously in Scripture, we're encouraged to reflect. I'm thinking instantly when the children of Israel were crossing the River Jordan to go into the Promised Land. It's like, hey, pick up your memorial stones and make sure you set these up to remind yourself God was faithful. That to me is the purpose of it. It's the remembering part is the same God that got me through that is the one that's with me now to take me into the future. The problem is when we look back to want to stay back, I want to go back. I've got to tell you, Emily, so here we are. It's the end of 2024 when we're recording this, going into 2025. I can't tell you how many places I've gone and I still hear this phrase, Chris, I just wish things would go back to normal. I just wish, and what people mostly mean by that is, I wish we could go back pre-2020, pre-COVID, and you're kind of going, like it's nearly 2025, like that was 5 years ago. But because the world has so fundamentally shifted, there's this longing for what was. And I get that to a point, but we're actually never going back. There is no going back. You're not going to go back. And I come from a Greek culture, and I remember my parents immigrated from Alexandria, Egypt to Australia. So I grew up Greek kid in Australia, 1970s. Emily, you were not even a twinkle in your parents' eye at the time. So anyway, that was when dinosaurs still roamed on the earth and I was growing up. But although my parents were in Australia raising us in the 1970s, 1980s, everything about them was still stuck in their country of origin when they were growing up in the 1930s and 1940s. And I think in many ways we can do that with our faith, with our life. We're just kind of like, I'm here, but I'm not really here because I'm either still back in that relationship that hurt me. I'm back in that trauma that was so defining in my life. I'm back in that disappointment of that business failing. I mean, insert whatever you want to insert. Our bodies are here, but everything about us is actually back there. And that stuckness means that you're going to miss so much of what God's got for you in the future. So to me, I think you look back to either get free from the past, to smile at the past, thank God for the past, deal with it and put it to bed, but never to stay there. That's not where we were meant to be, where Jesus calls us from the future to the future. So our telos is moving forward into eternity, with him. It is a hard thing for people to do, is to stay future focused, I think.
I know for some people, 2024 was full of maybe a lot of trials. So how can we look to the future in, this next year with excitement?
And that's a great question, because I'm never wanting to minimize or dismiss or diminish, kind of the pain of the past. Emily, we've talked about it on this podcast often. I come from a background of abandonment and abuse and adoption. So there's a lot of trauma in my past, and that could have defined me. Did it impact me? Yes. Does it need to define me? No. But I could have got stuck in any one of those things, stuck in any one of those moments. And if I did, I always just think there'd be no A21. There would be no, think of all the people. I just think in 2024, how many hundreds, over 600, I think we've had men, women and children rescued. And over, I'm trying to think the last count, but I think it's well over 100 traffickers convicted and sentenced, as well as the hundreds of millions of people that have been reached with the message of prevention and awareness. I don't know if you saw all over Times Square in New York, subways, great stuff happening. There would be none of that. None of that. If I, through the power of the Holy Spirit, with the help of God, did not choose to make what Jesus did for me bigger than what those people did to me. And I'm saying that by way of encouragement, that I know there's a lot of pain. People have been hurt, betrayed by people, in some cases institutions, leaders, in other cases by themselves. They let themselves down and failed. And we've all done that, where you go, the regret and the shame can keep you stuck as well. But the truth is that on the other side, like in your future, there are people on the other side. There are things to be done on the other side, people to be helped and ministry to be done, that I think we have to allow the pull of the future to be greater than the pull of the past. And none of that is easy, but what is impossible with man is possible with God. And I'm not just saying this as like, wow, Chris, that's a nice saying. I'm saying this as a human that has walked this road, has gone through great trauma, great pain. I haven't denied any of it or minimized it, but God had a plan beyond it, and he could take the pain. There's never a tear that is wasted. There is never a pain that is wasted. And that's not just trite Christian little comments. That's reality. It's reality. And I would hate to see people get stuck. Like, there's the reality, people will hurt you, people use you, people, it doesn't make any of it right. But what Jesus did for us at Calvary is bigger than what they did to us. And he understands our pain and our suffering and our woundedness and the betrayal and the hurt. And there comes a time, and it's not easy, but where we have to say, I'm laying this at your feet, because there's some stuff that will never make sense. How do you make sense? How do I make sense of being abandoned in a hospital when I was born? How do you make sense that my family didn't tell me I was adopted for 33 years? How do you make sense of being sexually abused for a decade? It doesn't make sense, and nothing makes it right, and nothing makes it okay. So how long am I going to stay on that treadmill of trying to work it out and trying to make someone pay or trying to get vengeance? At some point, the injustice is just that. It's an injustice. And no one here on earth is going to ultimately make that right for me. But Jesus did make it right at Calvary. And the good news of the gospel, I love this, is because he gives us a life beyond our past. So the cross, it doesn't give us amnesia. It's not like all the pain and trauma and all the people in 2024 that went through so much hurt. And it doesn't mean that didn't happen. You don't get amnesia and say it didn't happen, but it gives you a life beyond it. And that's the power of the blood. I mean, this is where I could get old school Pentecostal and start waving my hanky now, Emily. There is power in the blood. There is power in the cross. And I think sometimes we forget that. We could get so caught up in the pain and the hurt and the rejection, all the things that went wrong, that you can actually think, hang on a minute, that's why Jesus came, and that's why he shed his blood on the cross, and there is a life beyond that. I don't have to be defined by it. And I think we're coming to a place in our faith where some of this old school stuff is coming back around to go, hang on, old school is new school. This really does work. There is power in the blood. There is power in the cross. There is power in forgiveness. We've gone through a long season of just like, don't talk to me about forgiveness. You don't know what happened to me. Don't talk to me about it. And I get it. You don't know. But then that ultimately leads you nowhere. Like you go, okay, I don't want to carry this bitterness anymore, or this pain, or this unforgiveness. And I may never get resolution. That person may never say sorry. They may never even recognize what they've done. With Jesus, can I move beyond it? Yes. Okay. I'm willing to give it a go. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think we're all at a place where we're ready to start moving forward, and we're going to have to stop the obsessive rumination of trying to make this thing make sense, because a lot of it just never will. Not this side of eternity or the other. That's why Jesus came.
As you were talking, I began to think about James 1:2, which says to consider it joy when we face trials. And that's a verse I think we can sort of get wrong and twisted, because I think people try to force joy on traumatic situations. So I'd love to know, how do we genuinely look back on a trying situation with joy?
And I don't think he's ever saying that we're having joy for the traumatic situation, but in it really, there's a difference between count it pure joy when this happens, not the thing that is happening, but for what it's doing in you. And I can get to that place and go, okay. And I had a very painful, one of the most painful things in my adult Christian ministry life, like big statement, and that happened to me. It actually happened in June 2023, but, we're recording this in December 2024, and I can tell you it was probably only a week ago. So that's 18 months that I have wrestled with what I would say is one of the most deeply wounding things from someone that I considered a close friend. I never saw it coming. I never, one of those where you go, I really can't believe this just happened at our age and our state, like such a misunderstanding, I can't believe this is really happening. And to this point, we're now like 18 months later, even in the sort of pseudo sort of apology kind of that I got, I thought, wow, 18 months later of what seemed, after what I perceived to be such a deep betrayal and such a deeply wounding thing, I'm not sure you're going to acknowledge really the depth of that pain or even recognize it or even give it the dignity that it deserves or the time that it deserves. So, Christine, what are you going to do? Are you going to carry this yet again into 2025? And then I'm saying all this to come full circle. Like I've wrestled with this more than almost any other thing for 18 months in the midst of thriving ministry, very public life, all of this. It's like, I can't even tell you what's gone on in my heart, but it was about a week ago, maybe 2 at most. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm a different person, like something. And I said to the Lord, this is what you must mean, count it pure joy when these not for it, because I wouldn't want to go through what I just went through in this last 18 months. Certainly what happened in June, I don't ever want to go through that again, my life, emotionally, I mean, just no thanks. But what it's done in me as I've allowed it to have its perfect work, I mean, it wasn't easy. I'm different. And for that, I'm really grateful. So that's where the joy, I think. It's not like, and I still have, Jesus said in this life you will have tribulation. And Peter says, don't be surprised when these fiery trials. And then James is, count it pure joy. I'm like, you count it joy, James. I'm not like going to, but, it's, but I was smiling and I thought, you've changed me, God. Something, I wish it didn't have to take that, but it actually revealed to me some things about me that I wasn't aware of, and that God did a deeper work in me through that trial and that pain. And I'm kind of smiling. If you had told me this like a month ago, I wouldn't have said that. And I'm kind of smiling going into 2025. And I don't even regret now the sort of separation, and we're just both in our lanes doing our thing, whatever. And I'm kind of like, okay, and I don't even need an apology or need them to understand the depth of the pain that they caused me. That's probably me being, and of course, I put traffickers in jail for a living, so like my sense of justice is like, I want you to know. I'm counting it joy. I'm laughing with you about it now. If you had told me 18 months, we'd be laughing on this pod. So whatever was meant to happen in me actually did, and probably didn't even answer your question, but something's changed, and I don't need vengeance or vindication, or I'm good. And I never thought I would get there. So that's a powerful thing.
That was Christine Caine. Make sure to follow her on socials. Like, read her book. Just follow her. She's doing a ton and she's amazing. All right. After this break, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback. Hey, if you like this podcast, but you might like it better if there were no ads, you can do that. Head over to relevantmagazine.com and sign up for Relevant Plus. For just a couple bucks a month, you get this podcast ad-free. You get ad-free unlimited reading at relevantmagazine.com, including the full podcast and magazine archives, our beautifully designed digital issue, and a little more. Check out all the info right there on the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. Okay, it's time for your feedback. Last week, we got talking about like when the timeline broke. Like I kind of got reminiscent a little bit, kind of, hindsight's 2020. things. When was the peak, recent peak? And then like what happened to change it to make things hard? I kind of pontificated. It's like 2014, 2015 felt a little peak in my world. So we asked you, what happened? What broke the timeline? When did things start going off the rails? You hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Here's a few of our favorites.
There's some good ones here. I would love to start with my Mia Rob. And this is, I totally agree with you right here. I don't know about the rest of the world, but when Macklemore winning over Kendrick in 2014 was my villain origin story. That's a great moment. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about here.
That's kind of when it all went.
Everything, like his career tanked. It was just so much. The text afterwards on Instagram, it was tough.
That makes it because like what was the song? Thrift Shop was like huge, and then
it was so big.
And then after that, it was like, wait, we let him get too powerful, and that ruined everything.
All right. Yeah. Kevin Johnson says, sorry, Derek, but I think Marvel is part to blame for some of this. And you know what? I tend to agree, bro. They might have actually messed with the timeline. Like, you know, the movies got like time travel and stuff. Yeah. They might have actually, it's all Disney, so they're powerful enough to do that.
All the different timelines that they were messing with came true.
Peak Marvel does kind of coincide with, you know, like when Marvel jumped the shark. It's kind of like everything jumped the shark, you know?
Well, okay.
Hey, you might be onto something, Kev. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie.
I like Courtney Sings because she says whenever the Kardashians peaked, so like 2015, and I do have this theory that the Kardashians really did ruin a lot of pop culture.
There's something about that, yeah.
Because they're the big ones who made like influencers a thing, where it was like before you had to have some sort of talent or like a genuine connection to the industry to like make it big. Which, I mean, I guess kind of the Kardashians did, but like they brought in this whole group of influencers, and that's why we have
the problems in the world today.
But I feel like Paris Hilton and like she started it. Yeah, but she was party girl. She was the first influencer. She had no discernible talent. She was just.
I think that was a point to laugh at her.
Tequila was the first.
Paris's assistant was Kim Kardashian, so she goes back to Kardashian.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the through line goes to Paris. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. Kim came up. She was Paris's assistant, and she was like somebody's stylist or whatever. But she was at all the
Moesha.
She was at all the parties and stuff because she was there with Paris, and then she got her own connections and stuff.
Then the Ray J moment.
Right, exactly. Right.
Well, we all know about the
Ray J again. I told you guys. Jeez.
Yeah. Blame it on Ray J. Ray J wrecked the world.
So we're not talking 2014. We're going back like 2003 or whatever. Like,
Ray J, man. I'm telling you, this is a moment. Here's a good one. Early 2010s, things were good because they weren't new. Hold on. Or corrupted yet. We had cheap Netflix, cheap Spotify, cheap concert tickets. That was true. I mean, remember Netflix was what, $7.99? Spotify was like $5.99 at one point. It was different. Now it's $20. Now it's $30. I just changed my Apple deal. It's like $45 for everything. I'm like, how am I spending all this $45? You know,
I saw a charge come through last night. I thought my Netflix renewed, and I think I saw it say $27.99, and I'm like, wait, what? I need to go. I need to do that thing where you like your cable gets too expensive and you call them to cancel and then they like take half off. I need to do that with.
Well, you can't do that now. Like you used to be able to do that with cable. Cable, you like, I quit. I'm done with this, and they changed it. Now I'm going back to cable, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real.
Do they? But they even have cable still? Because I don't even know.
Yeah. They do.
I'm going back to cable.
It is really funny, like looking at this whole list because, so I graduated high school in 2013. And so, like, a lot of this
stuff... You broke the timeline. That's what it was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I entered adulthood when the timeline broke.
Ray J did the speech for her graduation. Just want to throw it out there. Just want to throw it out there.
But it's interesting, like, because I do remember being, like, I don't know, so excited to, like, be an adult and get to experience all these cool things. And then it's like, oh, actually, all the things you're looking forward to changed and everything broke. And I still like being an adult for the most part, but
sorry.
Yeah, for real. You you never had the good days, the good old days with us. What was it, that finale of The Office where Andy looks at the camera and says, "I wish they would tell you that you're in the good old days while you're still in them." You know,
man.
That I listened to that quote my senior year of high school.
That was you.
Yeah, all you know is influencers and inflation.
For real. and political division. Political division, inflation, influencers.
Influencers. That's it.
Yep.
What a time, right? Wow.
What a time to be alive.
People just look at America and be like, dang, it's so awesome. It's just so awesome.
But honestly,
everybody is like famous. It feels like everybody's rich.
No, but like I said, like I am technically a zillennial because I'm right on the cusp of Gen Z and millennial. And technically I'm millennial. But I'm saying, like, when people talk about why is Gen Z the way they are, I'm like, I get it because I am partly that way.
Yeah.
Just because you guys ruined all the fun for y'all. Y'all took all the fun memories and left me
not us
with inflation.
It's the generation before us. We ain't had no power. We was broke on our way to try to get some power. It's the people, it's the boomers.
The people rigging the system right now in Washington are not 50 years old. They're 80 years, 75 years old.
It's the boomers. That's who it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's more feedback where that came from. If you want to go check it out, look at our mentions over on X. Okay. It's time for this week's
editorial question of the week. Hey.
Well, earlier we were talking about FinTalk and how 68% of Gen Z gets financial advice from like TikTok and feels that they're better off for the advice that they've learned on social media. So we want to know what's actually the best advice you've learned on social media, or something you learned about on social media, something that impacted your life in a positive way from social media. That's what we want to know. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast and let us know, and we will read our favorites in next week's show. All right.
This isn't really an answer to it, but I do love watching those 5-minute craft videos where it's like actually really dumb hacks for life that it's like I would never actually use this, but I have thought about like, man, maybe I do just need to like get a glue gun and make a fake shoe.
Right.
That's literally like the type of advice it's giving.
I saw a dude make a steering wheel into a snow globe.
Yeah,
like, it was crazy.
Like,
I would never do this, but that's crazy.
The guy who teaches you like natural like cleaning stuff, or like how to take the avocado you bought from the grocery store and turn it into never-ending avocados, and like all that stuff. I actually have I had some burn marks on my stainless steel, and I remember him talking about vinegar and whatever, and I was just like trying his little thing that I remembered seeing. And it worked.
Toothbrush cleaning, all that stuff.
Oh, this is gonna be
all
interesting.
the things he does.
This is gonna be good.
Cool.
This is gonna be good.
And if you want to drop the accounts or whatever, like you want to give some shout outs to, we can share them. All right. Well, many thanks to Christine Caine for joining us today. Make sure to follow her on social, check out her books, see if she's speaking near you, because you got to go hear Christine Caine's.
Good season.
Good, life-changing.
So good.
On that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
I'm Marty.
All right. Well, we'll see you on Tuesday. It'll be our Christmas Eve episode. It'll be our only episode on Christmas week. So we'll see you on Tuesday.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
All my evil friends, I met them all at church.
Relevant Podcast Network.